What time is it? It's time for another Every Other Wednesday.
We get started?
We should say, hey, we're going to introduce Jennifer. Say hello to the gang. Say hello, Jennifer.
Hello, Jennifer.
Oh, you didn't disappoint me. I knew it. I knew it. This is why I love this woman so much. Hey, everyone. My name is Michael Kerr. I'm coming to you, as always, from the fabulous, beautiful, inspiring Canadian Rockies in Canmore, Alberta, right next to Banff National Park. I speak on workplace culture and culture leadership and humor in the workplace. My latest book is Small Moments, Big Outcomes. And on page 211, there just happens to be a sidebar that is written by our esteemed guest, Jennifer Spear, is in my book. So you know she's famous. So it is April 15th, 2026. There's the date stamp. And we want to know the theme days, as always. It is official Banana Day, World Art Day, Take a Wild Guess Day, That Sucks Day, and Eraser Day, and Rubber Eraser Day. And I found this, I have this, I don't know where I got this. It's an ear, can you see this? It's an ear eraser. It's an ear eraser, I believe. It's so bad, so bad. And Jeff, can you introduce yourself to the
What
folks?
is an official banana? You said it's official Banana Day.
Banana Day. It's Banana Day.
I got it.
It doesn't have to be an official banana.
Got it. Hi, everyone. I'm Jeff Tobe. And coming to you from beautiful 84-degree Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Although I can say that we have 3 Canadians on the show today.
We do.
Anyway, I am Coloring Outside the Lines. I speak about customer experience, leadership, and I'm glad to be here today.
We're glad to have you, Jeff.
Yeah.
And I don't know if missing is too loose a word. We're missing Richard and Sanjay today, our usual.
Well, we're missing Richard.
We're missing Richard. Yes. Missing Richard. It is my distinct honor to introduce a dear friend of mine. In fact, she's one of my close. I'll just go ahead and say it. She is my dearest friend in the world. So I am honored to be able to introduce her. Jennifer is a recovering corporate executive. I think we can still see that a little bit, the recovery stage you're still in. She's a keynote speaker, researcher, facilitator, MC, moderator, trainer. She has done so much. She loves a challenge and partnering with her clients to embrace today's topic, uncertainty, in order to work and lead unscripted. Prior to starting her company, Clean Slate, she was vice president of both HR and marketing for a national retailer, and she understands the importance of both employee and customer engagement. And this is very cool. Listen to this carefully, folks. As a graduate of both Ivy's Executive MBA program and Second City, the improv, folks.
University of Western Ontario.
Yeah.
I met my wife there the first day of school.
Really? Oh, that's
so
romantic. Jennifer operates where the business and creative worlds collide. She's worked for all sorts of groups, including NASA, which is very cool to have that on your resume. She sits on the board of directors of Meetings Mean Business Canada, representing the Canadian Association of Professional Speakers. She's a contributor to Forbes, the author of an upcoming book, Unscripted, based on her chaos declarative research study that uncovered the secret to well-being that uncovered the secret to well-being is how well we embrace uncertainty. And on a personal note, I have worked with and known Jennifer for years now. We sat on the board together in the Canadian Association of Professional Speakers. We co-chaired a fabulous convention together for speakers in 2022. Our theme was Reunited, and it feels so good because we were reunited after the COVID lockdown. And Jennifer is just one of my most famous humans for so many reasons. So thank you, Jennifer, for being here.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Jeff. It's a pleasure to be here with you both.
Yeah.
So I feel so unnoticed in this group. You guys just go ahead after that.
You can turn off your camera if you want, Jeff, and we'll just talk amongst ourselves.
So, Jeff, what do you think about us? Yeah.
I think that I'm very curious about you, so we'll ask you some questions. How was that segue?
That's very good. So I want to just for a little context. You talk a lot about uncertainty. Is it fair to say that we are living in perhaps the most uncertain times? Because it certainly feels like that right now.
Yeah, it certainly is right now. The amount of uncertainty and where it's coming from in all aspects of our lives. This is, I would say, a unprecedented time with uncertainty. And I studied it both during what I thought was the most uncertain time in our history, which was during the pandemic, and it was at that time. And then 2025 happened. And so it was around this time last year that I was just out of field researching again the level of uncertainty both in Canada and the US because of everything that was going on with the elections and the tariffs. And we saw that swirling around. And so we certainly are experiencing a tremendous level of uncertainty right now. And recognizing that not all uncertainty is created equal. So we can feel different in different times of uncertainty. And this one feels different for sure.
So uncertainty, and right away, I think our minds in both countries go to politics. But can we set it aside and say it's still a lot of uncertainty in people's lives? Where's that coming from?
Yeah, there's different levels of it, but it can be the political uncertainty that's causing the uncertainty in our lives, right? So any of that, what I call the ambient uncertainty, it's the uncertainty that's surrounding us. So it could be happening in the economy, in politics, in healthcare. Certainly we saw that during the pandemic. We did not know what was going on. We weren't getting clear answers to things. And so that's causing uncertainty at work. So not wanting to make decisions, not wanting to move forward, making investment, and that's causing uncertainty for individuals and their teams and what should we do now? And that's impacting our decisions at home in terms of should we move? Should we be buying property? Should we go on vacation? And all of that, it's all impacting each other, all of these decisions.
Should I fill my car with gas is the question I ask every morning.
Right? Or do we wait until 3 minutes after midnight and fill it up then?
That's right.
Yeah.
Can you fill your car with gas is the is the more apt question. Although as an electric vehicle owner, I have to say, I'm enjoying driving by the gas stations these days right now a little more. So and then what about, and then there's things even like AI, right, Jennifer? I mean, things like that, the technological changes, the uncertainty with what AI is doing to our economy, insecurity about jobs because of AI. So there's just a lot of stuff out there, a lot of change.
There is.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, no, there is a lot of change, and some of it is, rightfully scary, but some of it represents opportunity in terms of it's something new, it's something different, there's change happening. And so being able to, on the work side, so if we keep the politics aside, if we just think about what's happening at work, I mean, there's opportunity for innovation and for change to happen too. So it can be very positive. Uncertainty isn't always bad. I mean, we enjoy getting surprises and gifts and watching movies that we don't know what the ending's going to be. So uncertainty can be very positive in our lives.
You obviously don't know my wife, but that's okay. There is no uncertainty in her life. And she gets to the end of a movie and then goes, oh, I remember. I've seen this before. so maybe that's an age thing. I don't know. Something interesting I just heard on the radio just this morning on NPR, which is our national radio station. And they were talking about authors and that the amount of self-published books because of AI has tripled in the last 4 years. That's incredible to me. And then now the question is, are they writing it, or are people writing their books with AI? So just interesting when you talk about uncertain times. So what's all this got to do with corporate culture, do you think?
The uncertainty in corporate culture?
Well, yeah. And you use another word that I love, but we haven't even brought up yet. And that is
the
curiosity.
Curiosity.
Yeah. And on that note, because we opened with that question, what does curiosity and uncertainty have to do with each other?
That's where I was
and how does that all blend into our thoughts about workplace culture?
Yeah, well, it's, the more I learn about uncertainty, the more I realize how important curiosity is and how important it is for us to have at work. And I think we can create cultures of curiosity or encourage it more at work. The benefits are tremendous. Not just are we going to get more ideas and more innovation, if we're curious, but we can also be happier and more fulfilled and interested. We can create longer term employees and happier teams, and that could mean happier customers and better products. And there's so many things that can happen from that curiosity. But being able to create that culture, I think, is important. So that requires that it's safe, to ask questions. It's safe to not know things, and to hold that strongly, like as a badge of honor, to be able to say, I don't know, but I'm really interested in finding out, and giving people that opportunity to be able to be curious, to think things through, to explore their ideas. And the companies that do that are seeing such tremendous growth within their organizations than the ones that squash it. And we squash it without even realizing that we're doing it. When you reward results, you reward things being answered, not questioned. And so just recognize that there's some things that we can do in our organizations to help improve and encourage curiosity. We've also got to look at the things that we're doing that can squash it too.
And Jennifer,
where was it? Sorry.
I was just going to ask about your research, Jennifer.
Sure.
Can you talk a little bit more about that? Because that's partly, I think, how you uncovered this link between curiosity and uncertainty, is it not?
Yes, so it started in during the pandemic. So I've been talking about change and uncertainty for years. And so during the pandemic, I looked around and thought, is there ever going to be a better time to study uncertainty? And I thought, no, there isn't. And so it was looking at how we were handling the uncertainty as it dealt with the health crisis. So not knowing what was going to happen. And what we found in the research was that not everyone in a crisis is actually in crisis. Like, some people respond really well to the change and to the uncertainty, and were actually inspired by it. And so it was in that we decided to look at those that were the most comfortable within uncertainty. And we were recognizing that these people also had the highest overall well-being. So they had, in terms of physical health, mental health, financial health, social health, overall their well-being was the greatest. When we isolated for every factor that we looked at, the number one thing that impacted whether they were going to be overall healthier was how well they responded to uncertainty. And the number one factor that determined whether they were feeling comfortable with an uncertainty was how curious they were. And so it was recognizing that link and how powerful curiosity can be for our overall well-being, to keep us calm. It can, we talk about the reptilian brain, I call it the gator brain, our amygdala, the fight or flight. It is, curiosity engages your whole brain, and it can keep that quiet. So when you're curious, you can't be anxious, you can't be furious, you're not judgmental, you're present, you're in the moment, and you're open to new ideas. And so it's such a powerful tool, or process or skill or mindset that we can use and apply to any situation. And then in 2025, as I mentioned, looking around, I thought, is there ever going to be a better time to study uncertainty? Because at that time in Canada, our prime minister had just stepped down. We had a new leader of the Liberal Party. We were going into an election. We just had that election south of the border in the US. We were hearing the threats of the tariffs, and things were swirling around. So I did the study again, this time in Canada and the US, and looking at how we were reacting to this uncertainty. And so some things held true across, but we did see differences in terms of how people were responding to the uncertainty. But curiosity was still the strongest measure in terms of being able to help us be able to get through it. And it's always been one of my favorite things in terms of being curious and asking questions. So I was thrilled to find it in the research too.
So Anna wants to know, are there any tips you would give to leaders who have team members who are worried that AI will take their job? So hard to be curious when you have what I hear is being referred to as AIRD, AI replacement to function. Function.
That's a new
Thanks.
term.
And just for some background info, Anna is joining us from Great Britain. So we have
Yes.
another country's opinion here too.
And thank you, Anna. I was just going to comment, the chat box has been unusually quiet today,
Yeah.
so let us know you're there. And remember to, if you haven't, change the drop-down menu to everyone so we can see your questions and comments and ideas.
Wonderful. Thanks, Anna. I think that's a great question. With AI, I think the best thing that we can do actually around AI is to be curious about it, to be curious about our jobs, curious in terms of what AI could actually help us do. How could we use it within our jobs rather than being replaced by it? And if a job can be replaced by AI, you might want to be improving skills in other areas and potentially looking for a new job, because the jobs that AI is not going to be able to take are the ones that are high touch, the ones that really do need our curiosity, that need people and empathy and, you know, all of those great human traits we're still going to need. And we're going to need smart people, smart, curious people to be able to use AI intelligently and productively and safely within our organizations. So I think it's actually the trick is to get curious about things, the things that scare us, as well as the things that interest us.
Yeah. I think the chat box is quiet, by the way, because I don't think Carol is with us today. So that's, yeah.
Carol,
yeah,
are you there? Carol, hello. Reach out if you're there. Say hello.
Just Jennifer, just so you know, Jennifer, that Carol does not miss any of our sessions in 130 something sessions, only once because of a technical issue.
Yeah.
But
So
let me just say that
Carol?
in Coloring Outside the Lines, when I'm talking to groups, I talk about curiosity as well as it applies to the customer experience.
Yeah.
But I also say, and I would like your opinion on this, I've never asked an expert on it, but I say the opposite of curiosity is ignorance. And it gets a little bit of a pushback. But when I explain that, I mean, it just means you're not, if you're not curious, you're not asking questions, you're not finding out the other side of the story, so to speak. And would you agree that kind of is one end of the spectrum to the other?
I believe it can be, you know, when I think about curious, and the people that are incurious, right? So they're not asking those questions. They're not
Is that a word? Incurious? Okay.
If it's not, it is now.
It is now.
I like that.
But I do believe it. I do believe it is a word that I didn't make up. And I actually just posted an article about this today. Michael was helping me on it, thinking about expertise. And expertise can get in the way of us being curious as well, because we already know it all.
You
right?
think we know so much. Yeah.
Exactly. And so it's not necessarily ignorance, but it's ignorance about what we don't know yet, or ignorance in the fact that you can still learn, that there's still things there. So that's why I didn't immediately agree with ignorance, because it can be really smart people who end up being incurious about their own stuff, about their
I think they end up being ignorant. So that's
as an end result. But I love that question, Jeff. What is the opposite of curious? Because that's got me curious now, thinking about all the possibilities. Because I think there's many things. I mean, I think one of them is apathy, right? If you just don't care enough about your customers, about your business, about this meeting and these ideas being discussed, then you're not curious, because I don't care. So there's several different, I think opposites or of curiosity. That's
Jen, I've heard you say that you should fall in love with your problems.
I was just going to ask that. That's my favorite Jen phrase. Yes.
Tell me more about it, because I'm not sure I understand.
So I have been, even before dealing with change and uncertainty, I've been working in problem solving. So I facilitate creative problem solving and strategic planning and decision making. And I always found I would get a little bit of pushback from people because they hated the word problem. They didn't even want to talk about it. And so if we're not wanting to talk about our problems, we're not going to solve our problems. We're not going to be able to move forward and innovate. And recognizing that problems aren't things that we should hide from or hide from each other. But if we could actually fall in love with our problems. Like if we did, we would get really curious about them. We'd want to know everything about them. We'd want to explore it. We want to spend as much time as we could. If you think about how you feel when you are in love, what that can be like. And if we can put that towards our problems, then we're excited about it. We get up in the morning excited to be able to spend time with our problem. We're energized by it. We want to talk about it all the time. People will get tired of us talking about it all the time, but we're just so engaged in wanting to solve that problem. It can be so powerful. And so when I've used this with organizations and getting the group involved and how excited they are about this opportunity to be able to sit in the problem, to understand it so well that they will be able to solve it, and then getting their teams excited about it, and you can see it cascading down. It can be such a powerful, engaging, and positive way to look at it for any group.
Oh, I love that, Jennifer. And it reminds me, there's a bit of overlap there, I'm sure, with a concept that I talk about sometimes, deep fun.
Yeah.
And this notion that if you view your biggest challenges as fun mysteries to solve or riddles that need to be solved, and if you embrace the mindset, hey, it can be fun to figure out, this is a brutally difficult, challenging problem we're facing, but what if we adopt the mindset, hey, this is fun. This is going to be fun to figure out how we're going to solve this puppy.
And it's always interesting. So anytime I speak, if I'm speaking to a group, I get them to picture a time that they're at work where they're the most proud, like they were so proud of themselves. They had to go home and tell somebody about it. They felt so good. It doesn't matter what group, what level. When I ask them what is the moment, it's usually when they were involved in solving a problem, when they were overcoming a challenge. And people love that. And it does not matter what their position is within the organization. They love this. And so to let our people do this and have that feeling at work, how positive is that? It's great for the individual, great for the team, great for the company overall. And that's going to be great for your customers.
Yeah, that's a great reminder, right? If everything is just easy in life, if everything is just given to us and there's never any problems or challenges or obstacles to overcome, then we don't necessarily have that sense of achievement. We don't have that sense of overcoming these obstacles, and that is such an important point that I haven't thought a lot about, how that derives so much of our sense of pride.
Let me counter that, though, that in every organization, you've got the people who are saying, TTWWADI, that's the way we've always done it. And to me, no matter how hard you try, you're never going to get them to buy into a culture of curiosity. I think that, I've been here 40 years, another 5 years, I get to retire, just let me do my job kind of thing. So how do we tackle that? I mean, it's one thing to say we have to develop a culture of curiosity, but how do we, I guess you use the word cascade. How do we decide, or how do we kind of push it down through the organization?
It could be pushed down or it could be pushed up as well, I think. And also if the team members working with this individual, if they're curious and they're curious about that individual, if that's been the, that expert, it's not my first rodeo. I've got the t-shirt to prove it, right? I've gone through this so many times. We've always done it this way, or we tried it that way and it didn't work, and not being open to do anything new. If you could be curious with that individual and get them to talk about their experience, that's going to get them engaged. And you start asking your favorite question, Jeff, in terms of what if. But what if we could? Is there another way? And you are such an expert in this area. We could really use your help on this, and bring them in and have them get engaged in that project as well. I am also a firm believer, and this might not fly with everybody, but if you don't have the right people on your team, you may need to ask them to leave. It depends on what you want in the organization, because that person could be sucking the life out of everybody else on that team.
You're here.
So recognizing what's important.
Yeah. It's funny because I now started telling groups, if you don't have a formal mentoring program, you need it, because you need to tap into it's called knowledge sharing, right? Somebody's going to leave and they've had that 40 years of experience, and you have not sucked their brains, so to speak. And so I think that's a key as well, is no matter the size of your organization, start getting the veterans, if you will, to mentor the younger people. And I think exactly what you said, Jen, that it will get them to be more engaged in the organization.
It can be so positive. And Michael, you shared the other day that company in Denmark, and they have historians. So when someone new comes on, the historians partnered with them, and they give them, as part of their orientation, here's the story of how we came about.
How cool.
Yeah. And I would suggest that mentoring is one of the many things you can do to foster a culture of curiosity. That unto itself is a form of generating curiosity, of asking questions, and not just from veterans down to the newer employees, but in the opposite direction as well. There's so many things newer employees can teach the older folks as well, right? But that all sparks conversations and sparks curiosity.
Yeah, it's called reverse mentoring. And it happens often now. It's a two-way street.
Yeah. So Jen, I want to talk to you about something that is near and dear to my heart, and I know is near and dear to your heart too. And I mentioned it in your introduction, that you, like me, have a background, although you have a much more extensive background, I think, than I do, in improv, in using improv. And I know you use improv exercises with your facilitation, your workshops, your keynotes. You're very, very interactive, engaging. What has improv taught you about uncertainty and curiosity, and how do you leverage it in the work you do?
Oh, yes, and Michael Kerr. I think in the chicken and egg scenario, I think improv came first. And so I studied improv when I was a vice president. I was working 100 hours a week, and just needed to get out of the office one day a week by 7 o'clock. That was my goal. And I fell in love with improv and went all the way through at Second City. And it was recognizing the power of some of those skills, because with improv requires uncertainty and ambiguity in order for it to work. And so you learn to love it. It creates those opportunities, and it's working with others within that environment and recognizing how powerful that was, and then bringing that into my work. And so using all the skills of improv to be able to feel more comfortable at work. And if you're more comfortable and you're calmer, you're going to be able to be involved and be able to move forward and not be frozen by change and the uncertainty. But then also recognizing how some of those skills, if we tweak them for work a little bit, now they look like curiosity. And it's creating that environment where we can be curious together, where we can be open, where we can ask those questions and say, what if? The reason improv works really is because there's an agreement amongst all the improvisers that we're going to support you no matter what happens, right? My job is to make you look good. It's not about getting the spotlight or getting the punchline. It's to make you look good. And if we all do that for each other, and we have a common goal of being able to ultimately serve our customers, we can break down the silos, we can work together to be able to foster such a positive environment to be able to solve our problems, be curious, and move forward.
By the way, Jen, I tell the other three guys all the time, my job is to make you look good. So how am I doing?
You're doing awesome, Jeff. You excel at that.
For sure. I guess the question that I have, Jen, is why? All this about curiosity. We've talked a little bit. Well, I'm trying to.
Why are we here, Jen? What's the meaning of life?
I'm having those moments.
Curious about curiosity, yes.
Yeah. I mean, you've given us reasons to be more curious. I get that. And we've talked about business. Why should I be more curious in my personal life?
Well, I mean, why wouldn't you want to be?
Okay, good enough. I happen to be a curious person, but I'm wondering if somebody in the audience may not be.
I mean, when we're curious, we're we're engaged. It's just such a positive feeling. Like imagine watching the World Series and already knowing what the end result was going to be before
What, the Toronto wasn't going to win?
well, that broke my heart. It really did.
Would have
But
saved
what
me
a
a little
great game.
heartache if I'd
That's why
known
I said
before.
it.
What a great game. But being able to, you're curious, you want to know what's going to happen. You're leaning in, you're totally engaged. But if you knew what the score was already, if you already heard about it, you're not going to be that interested in watching it anymore. If you're curious about people, about relationships, it's going to improve all of your relationships. When somebody's interested in you, when they're asking you questions, how that makes you feel, and you can do that for others. It strengthens your relationships. It
makes you a better conversationalist, right? That's the number one thing
Absolutely.
you can do, is instead of trying to, it's the old saying, instead of trying to be interesting, be interested in the other person by being curious about them.
Yeah, I can't imagine a life without curiosity, but it doesn't mean you have to be curious about everything, right? So people who love sports, curious about sports. If you're not interested in sports, you can be curious about something else. So you don't have to be curious about everything, but in any situation, just to be able to say, like, I wonder what this is. I wonder what this means. I wonder why they're interested in it and not me. I think it just opens up the world. It makes us happier and healthier individuals. And from the research, the healthiest individuals. So physical health, mental health, social health, financial health. It improves every aspect of our lives.
And it has to make us happier, right? It has to. I mean, it helps us, I think, be more present, to slow down and appreciate those moments of awe, whether those are huge things like we just saw with the fly around the moon and some of those images that gave us such a profound sense of awe, or just the small little things in our lives that can provide awe when you just slow down and notice it, right? So it's about noticing things more, being more observant. And I know from my world of humor, there's a huge overlap between humor and curiosity. I don't think you could not be a successful comedian if you were not highly curious about the world and just noticing everything around you and asking a lot of questions.
So curiosity really.
Imagine if our world leaders were more curious.
Right.
There'd be a lot more plausible conversations.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, we're seeing the result of not being curious.
Yeah.
Right now. Right.
Being very
that myopic view and what that can do. But Michael, you were talking about awe. So when you think about curiosity, it is a desire to understand, but there's a sense of wonder there. Mm-hmm. And it really does. It is awe and wonder. It's one of the most positive feelings that you can create for yourself. And that's the great part about it, is curiosity is innate. It's in all of us, and we can encourage it. We can enhance it and even force it if we need to. You can fake it till you make it, but we all have it, and it's just leaning into it a little bit more.
Yeah. And is it fair to say that that we all start out our lives pretty curious, right? As children, as small children, we're curious about everything because everything is new to us, and somehow we lose it along the way.
Mm-hmm.
Well, can I just comment on that quick?
Yeah.
Yesterday I just spent the day with 2,000 high school students who, in the States, we have a club, I guess you would call it, in high schools all over the States, called Future Business Leaders of America, FBLA. I have never been so impressed with how curious the questions they asked, like they truly were interested. And I was thinking this on the way home, driving home yesterday, that Michael, where did we lose it? Because if I proved that in high school they're still curious, at least for the most part. I think everyone there were kind of overachievers, but that's probably because they're asking questions. Somewhere we get into, I think it has to do. You said it before. You used the word squashed, Jen, and I think somewhere in our work lives, maybe very early, those things are squashed.
It actually does happen in school. And so they're lucky when they're in a program like that, where they're encouraged to think for themselves and to be curious. But often in schools, we're trying to guess the right answer. So it's not about being curious. It's about getting the best score. And so it's not really about learning. It's about, retaining just enough and just long enough that you can get the A on the exam, and that's about it. And then at work, if we're not encouraging people to create and to start and to question, instead we're always rewarding them for finishing, getting the fastest, the most efficient, the most productive, which doesn't allow always time to be curious, to be able to allow that air around ourselves. So we're spending more time in the problem and being curious about it.
Yeah.
So you brought it around to work again. Do you think it's needed, and how do we hire for curiosity?
Yeah.
Is that something we should be doing?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. I think we should. And
Me
you know
getting
when you're
excited.
excited when your hands start going.
He's having a seizure.
I'm having a mental excitement of awe moment.
So there's a company, it's part of IDEO, it's called OI Engine. And so what I love their practice for hiring is when they're asking for job applicants, they're not asking them to write a cover letter. Instead, they ask them to send in their 10 questions they have about the job. And so in those questions, you get to see how the person's thinking, what they think about. Are they thinking about the same kinds of things you are, the strategic things, the interesting things? Have they come up with something you hadn't even thought about before? So if they've done that and then you bring them in for an interview, now you're going to have a great conversation. And interviews, the way they're structured, are really not done well. It's the person's got pat answers that they just want to be able to give, but they've been practicing it. It's, tell me of a time when you did X. But it should be, give them something that you can ask, this is something that we're working on right now. What questions do you have about it? And see how they respond. Ask them the last time that they went down a rabbit hole on something that they were so excited about. And you get them to talk about things that they're curious about. You're going to see how passionate they are, what they care about, what they're interested in. And then we can actually be hiring those curious people within the organization, and then let them get curious about the work, about the customers, about how we can do things better. Imagine that if everyone in the organization was tasked to be curious about making everything better for the customer. I think it would be incredible.
Exactly what I talk about with touch points. Pick a touch point, and how can we be more curious about it?
Yeah.
And curious just about our customers. Right?
Yeah. Right.
How are they experiencing our services and products? What do their lives look like? Like what are their questions? What are their needs? What are their desires? Just getting curious about them.
I want to follow up on what Sherry, with the French last name, said in the comments. I think it has a lot to do with the state of the world as well. And I think, when I think about what's going on, it's that fear of curiosity in the just at a very basic level. Books being banned, things that if I'm too curious, I could get in trouble. So I think it's being squashed again. In our society.
Yeah, it truly is. It is a scary, sad time when we're seeing things like that, and seeing, science programs, and we just saw the national parks getting hit again, and thinking about all of those areas are ones where curiosity is necessary, and it's so important to the work that they do. And so I understand that fear. Absolutely.
Well, and now I'm thinking about the whole, we are living in this age with a tsunami of misinformation and disinformation.
Yeah.
And I think from that perspective, it becomes even more important for all of us to be curious about the sources of our information, to be curious about asking the right questions. Is this really true? Not going down the wrong rabbit holes.
Exactly. Yeah, I only meant the good rabbit holes.
Yes.
But you're right. But curiosity is so important for critical thinking and to be able to, as you said, identify what is the misinformation, right? Rather than just accepting in a passive way, being curious and active, doing your own searches with good sources to understand what is happening.
I did my research. The Earth is flat. Jen, you may not know this. I went down this rabbit hole this morning. I have a whole new way of looking at it.
I'll meet you at the edge.
Yeah. So we've got 5 minutes left. I want to bring this down to something very specific at work where I think is kind of a touch point for all of this, for curiosity and uncertainty, and that is in our meetings. So do you have a few tips to bring us home on what we could do in our meetings to make sure we're leveraging curiosity, that we're making our meetings safe for people to be curious?
Yeah, being safe for curiosity is really important, but it can start with the agenda. It can start with the invite to the meeting too, telling people that they're not coming to the meeting just to report on something that had just happened, but you want them to come with the best question that they have about the performance. Ask, set up the meeting so that people are coming willing to say that they don't know, being able to sit in that and have questions and have discussions. Meetings that are just updates on what happened, those are the meetings that could have been an email, right? So the meeting should be open. And what can set that stage is definitely if the leader starts and if they're willing to ask a question, to say that they don't know something and invite that conversation is important. Think about, famously at Pixar, Ed Catmull, and he would have the brain trust meetings, invite people in and invite diverse perspectives. And it really is, let's get curious about this. Let's ask questions because we all want to make a better product. We all want to serve our customers better. We all want to enjoy our work better. So let's be curious together, asking questions like, so what surprised you in the last week, or what have you been thinking about since the last time we met? And really be able to spark people's curiosity in those moments, and to reward questions, and even say things like, I'm going to ask the most obvious question here, because that makes it safe for everyone else to ask any question, to feel comfortable asking and knowing that they're not going to be squashed. They're not going to be pushed down for that.
Yeah, I love that. I talk about creating a culture of questions, right? Having a question of the month, opening your meetings with a thought-provoking question, just normalizing the importance of asking thought-provoking, interesting, curious questions. Yeah, love that. Jeff? Hi.
I'm actually,
I
got kicked out. I could hear you, but I couldn't see you guys.
Really?
Oh,
yeah.
So, I thought you just got lost in some curious thought.
Talking about
the universe.
Uncertainty. No, I'm referring to Zoom. Never know what you're going to get. So, well, so Jennifer, if what advice would you have? What's the number one thing you would advise our audience right now when this show's over in just a few minutes? What would you advise them? First thing they should do or could do?
Well, I just want you to get curious. I want you to lean in, think about anything, something that you're working on today, and think of 3 questions you could ask about it, and ask yourself or ask others. See if you can, I don't know, I was going to say, see something in nature, go out and take a walk and get curious about what you see. That's always a great instigator to do it. Look on, if you're watching Netflix, pick a documentary on something that you've never explored before, and think about questions that you might have about it, and see if you can watch it all the way through.
Yeah, it occurred to me, read a book on something that you just have no interest in, have never had an interest in.
And that's so fun to do. We are out of time. The time has just zoomed by.
Right.
Interestingly enough. We're on Zoom. See what I did there?
Yeah,
hey, and you didn't mention one of your favorite questions that I learned from you, Jennifer, that I use now all the time. How might we?
Oh, how might
Kind
we?
of as a gentle way of opening up people's minds. So how might you, our wonderful audience, our wonderful followers, how might you be more curious in your workplaces? So we have to wrap it up.
We do, and I'm sure that everybody's curious to know, about when we'll be back, and that's on April 29th. I believe April 29th.
You did the
right?
math correct. You did the
Yes,
math.
thank you.
14 plus 15, 29.
Thank
Yep,
you.
every other Wednesday.
Jen, I want to thank you so much for being here.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, Michael. My pleasure.
Thank you. This was a
Absolutely.
fascinating and curious conversation.
And Mike, when will we see everyone?
Every other
Every other
Wednesday.
Wednesday.
Thank
Bye,
you all.
everyone.
Thanks everyone for joining us. Be curious, everyone.